All right. Good morning, everybody. Got a whole full house here. Got Tom Ham. Tom, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Very good. Introduce yourself. I think most people know who you are, but we might as well get you to introduce yourself.
Oh, I've been a shop owner since '78. Still have a shop that I was at yesterday, working for a little bit. Also have Automotive Management Network. We've got about a little over 14,000 members around the world. And those two things keep me pretty busy.
I bet so. Eric, introduce yourself, brother.
Eric Mrozinski, run Elite Business Solutions in Somerville, South Carolina. All we do is Mercedes exclusive, so kind of convenient, makes it a little easier.
Hey, listen, I watched a video the other night. It was like this short little reel of this woman trying to explain where North South Carolina was, and that was a really interesting topic. There is a North South Carolina, just so you know. I'm your neighbor. I'm just a little bit above you. I'm not that far away. So, and then Ryan, I think everybody knows who you are as well. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Oh, God, I hope nobody knows who I am. I'm Ryan Snow. I run St. George Transmission and recently SGT Automotive in southwestern Utah. We're just a few hours north of Las Vegas.
Nice.
I've been in the business since 2008, specifically in the service side of the world. I was sold parts and was a tech before that.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. And so obviously you're always showing up to Apex, right? Like you're going to be at Apex this year?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, hey, that's a little bit of an odd combo. I've seen some folks go that direction. Transmission shops typically are their very own breed and have their own set of challenges, their own set of issues. Did the transmission shop or the general automotive repair shop come first? We take the trust of our listeners very seriously, and I hope that you know that when I say that Shop-Ware is the best automotive shop management system, I believe it in my heart of hearts, and now it's even better. With new features like Tech App, it streamlines the inspection and dispatching process for you and your technicians. And with massive improvements to Shop-Ware's exclusive digital vehicle experience, they have stepped their game up to a whole new level. So if you haven't scheduled a demo yet, click the link in the show notes and do it today. If you've already had a demo and you were waiting to finally switch, there has never been a better time. So click that link and get started today.
Definitely the transmission shop. I started working for this company in 2008 as a service advisor, and it was they were probably 80-90% transmission work. If a vehicle needed brakes while it was on a rack and the wheels happened to be off, then they might do it. But
Right.
the 2008-2009 economic period kind of changed that business model a little bit. We had guys we needed to keep busy, so we got to a point where if we're primarily a breakdown shop and we actually connect with that customer and they want to come back and like now we're their guys and they want an oil change or AC work or brakes or something like that, it gets hard to be really accommodating when you're plugged up full of super broken cars. So
Right. Absolutely.
We recently added space right next door to our original shop to be able to accommodate that general repair demand more smoothly. It's the intention.
For sure.
Anyway.
Gotcha. And that's really the reason that I think a lot of transmission shops struggle with that is they say, look, I've got all these builds lined up. I've got all these R&R jobs. I have to get the R&R jobs through or the transmission side comes to a screeching halt. And so I have to manage that flow. And it's kind of like a body shop. I've always admired the transmission shop flow because they run it in a more assembly line fashion than what I think a lot of independent repair shops typically operate as.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to travel around and go see some more transmission shops because I've only seen a few different, kind of models and scales.
Yeah.
But I've tried every way that we could think of to kind of get that mix of general repair efficiency and the heavy line requirements of the workflow through the same space And I never figured it out. I'm sure that there are people that have got it figured out and their team picked it up and ran with it. But
Right.
now we've got divided space. But
Right.
in the automotive side over here, there's a diff apart, there's a transfer case being replaced.
Says, now wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to be heavy line. What are y'all doing? So
you can't outrun your core identity.
that's exactly right. Eric, you said you're Mercedes only. How in the world did you get into Mercedes only? By the way, I have to ask, like, have you looked at the price of Century? Have you, like, how did you end up here? I just have to know.
Well, from a dealer side of things, I was trained through the dealer. Worked with the dealer for 13 years. Business partner has been there for about 15. We both love Mercedes. That's what we are tooled for. That's what our boxes were set up for. Eventually, around 2020, kind of had the ends of the dealership politics and trying to recoup money from the loss of COVID. And we decided to step out on our own to be able to provide the quality that we felt the customers are paying for and deserve.
Yeah.
So we kind of went that route. The only thing we didn't have at the time really was the Century. So we made a one-time credit card purchase because you can only pay a one-time fee. And got the Century unit and just kind of started rolling from there. Working lucky enough that here in Charleston we have a decent sized market, and we only have one dealer. They don't do the best of jobs, so people find us pretty quickly. Word of mouth has done us well so far.
That's fantastic. That's awesome, dude. Because I know that it's a completely different world. Brian Walker, who owns Shop Marketing Pros, they started as just a Mercedes shop, right? And really did that way up and build a brand all the way around that. So it's a really unique way to approach that. Now, Tom, I'm not saying that you're the oldest guy in the room, but you're the most experienced guy in the room, right? By far. And so one of the things that Shop-Ware asked us to talk about today is what was the aha moment? What was the thing in your career that stands out? I know I've got a couple of them, but there's a couple really big ones. What was it that stood out most for you? Is there an aha moment that you can remember that was kind of a catalyst for something different in your life, in your career?
No. I think most of what I've come to learn has been gradual over a period of time. So more like learning a language, and it's not like you jump 6 lessons in one day. You just pick it up a few words at a time, and I think most of the things that I've learned have just been an accumulation of a long period of a lot of things come together, and finally the aha moment occurred, but it's not necessarily with a specific incident, it's just a combination.
For sure. I kind of resemble that, and I think that's life. You know what I'm saying? I think that's daily life for all of us. There were some aha moments. There were some things that happened, and now that you say that and I think back about it, it was the culmination of all of those things. But especially in the very early days, it was all the struggles, all the fight, and then eventually, when I hired a business coach to finally say, all right, I'm going to be willing to take what you're telling me and at least give it a try, because what I'm doing is not working. Does that make sense? Like there was a point in time where I was trying to bullhead my way through this and do it my way. And I was trying to set it up, and I, for some reason, thought I knew more than everybody else. And so I'm trying to build my own system, do my own thing, and eventually it was too much. And so that moment of recognizing that I wasn't being a dad or a husband, I wasn't really living life to its fullest because this thing called an auto repair shop was consuming every bit of me. And so that was kind of my aha moment to take it and start, and now that I look back and think about it in the way you described, very much the same thing. Little aha moments scattered throughout where the culmination of knowledge comes together with the action or the activity that I saw the change in the business that woke me up. What's the toughest job that you can remember in the shop, Tom?
I mean, as far as actually a repair job?
Yeah.
You gotta remember, we're talking about 45 years here.
They begin to melt together, don't they?
I'm not so sure. I think there was One of the weirdest thing that happened a year or two ago, where we replaced a serpentine belt on a car, and I'm still not sure exactly what happened. You'd need some forensics to get in there, but the bottom line is the new belt shredded, and it sucked it through the timing cover seal and basically wiped out the engine.
Oh my God. BMW?
I don't recall.
I know I have seen that happen on a couple BMWs. And like they were the ones that the oil cooler or the oil filter adapter housing would pour oil down the front of the motor. And I would tell them for months on end, like, hey, dude, you need to deal with this. The belt's soaked if you don't deal with this. And they would have disclaimers on them. It would say, if you don't deal with this and that belt goes through there, you're in trouble. Right. And they would decline it time after time. And then they would show up and they're like, why didn't you tell me about this? There's 6 repair orders, and they all say it on there. And we verbally told you each time, what do you want me to do? Like, how am I supposed to help you with this? And Eric, that's one of the reasons that I do kind of admire that specialty thing, because, as a shop owner, I learn things about each and every one of these cars that I work on, right? I have experiences with each one of them. But when I stepped out of that role as the technician, all of a sudden it's very difficult to remember each little thing about each and every single car. Right?
It is.
But as a specialty shop, you can kind of begin to narrow that down, and your line of cars, and you're like, hey, that's going to be an issue. Let me tell you. Have you seen that? Have you seen it? It makes it a little bit easier to navigate that?
It does, and that's for sure. And that's what kind of also helps provide our quality at the same time, as we get so well versed in that brand that it's just off the top of the head for us for things people usually spend hours on. We've already countered it 10, 15 times.
Right.
And on the independent side, it works out well for us having the newer fleet. We run maybe 4 years just outside of Mercedes-Benz warranty, and we have quite a few within warranty. So we even still get to see all the new complex electrical issues that Mercedes loves to throw at us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember any aha moments or any like really tough jobs that stand out in your career?
I would say the aha moment for us really, when it comes down to as a whole, was the integration of a real software system. When we first started, we come from the dealer of ADP and Reynolds.
Yeah.
And you don't have, you can get it outside, but it isn't worth it. We kind of just started with QuickBooks, and QuickBooks does not allow you, the detailed information, the tracking of histories, and not being able to have that history and tracking and massive amounts of paperwork in a file back here that you got to go pull from when the customer comes back in. It looked bad. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
We couldn't provide the quality and overall warranty. So that's when we switched over to Shop-Ware. And from there, overall, that was a game changer for us, and being able to provide very smooth workflow through the shop. And then we just kind of grew from there with changes after change.
Yeah, I was the same way. I used QuickBooks for the longest time and had decent success with it. But, here I am. I've got a sheet that I've got to use to put my matrix in place. And so I have to look it up, and now I have to transfer it over. You're right. Probably the biggest thing is no service history. So if that consumer comes back and wants to ask a question, guess what Lucas is doing? Scrolling down through the invoice list and opening each one to see which one had it on there. And there's no VIN tracking. Whereas a proper shop management software now, I can look it up by car. I can look it up by client. I can go in and look at the visits. I have a service history screen so I can actually see that. And I think in a lot of cases, that is what's missing for some of these smaller shops when they first start out. They say, well, I can't afford a software like that. And I mean, from my perspective, you can't afford to not have a software like that, because that is the core of any auto repair shop. You know what I mean?
We went 5 months, and that was the longest we could make it before we've got to change something.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you got to see a lot of these guys are coming from independent shops, and they decide to start their own shop. And so all they've seen is the back of house, right? Maybe they did come from a dealer, so they saw the back of the house, but they saw it in a more organized fashion because of ADP or Reynolds and Reynolds or whatever it may be. And so I think that's one of the big things for many young shop owners who are just starting out is if you don't have an SMS, man, you've got to have one. Like, it is absolutely mandatory. I don't see a way around it, for sure. So, Ryan, what about you? Anything stands out? Anything that is a huge aha moment for you?
I've been trying to think about that. Like Tom said, it's really about like a collection of all these little things. I try to have an aha moment every damn day.
I know, right? No, I'm trying not to have aha moments. Okay, at this point, they're painful.
But like something I found is, I kind of started out as like always being the youngest guy in the room, and something that's been unique about my journey is I came in to take over an already relatively successful shop that had been around for a lot of years, and so a lot of that kind of like low-hanging fruit that you would normally go in and grab, or the first hard lessons to learn, we'd kind of already been through that before I was in, leadership mode or refinement mode. And like, there's definitely been things that, rules that have come up because of aha moments that cost a lot of money to deal with. Like, everybody in my front of house knows that if any technician ever comes up and asks you for one particular bolt, that it's time to start asking some questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've had one missing torque converter bolt lock up a supercharged Ford or a supercharged Toyota Tundra V8.
Yeah, buddy.
We didn't find it until it fell on the ground. Once we finally got the engine and the trans separated, I had an intake bolt fall into a new 6.7 Ford diesel.
Oh, that sucks.
And, a guy that had probably never lost a bolt in the entire time I had worked with him, and just one bolt happened. And then I find out like that part number came across in my parts audit, and it stuck out at me because I was a parts guy first. And so a number can give me a PTSD reaction. Yeah. And what the hell is that one bolt we bought from Ford? And it was that intake bolt that we found in the piston.
Oh man, dude. And see, those are extremely valuable lessons. Because and it's that experience, right? I think that so often we discount that, and especially when it comes to having an advisor. Let's say you're a young shop owner, you started your shop. That advisor may come in and say, "Well, I'm an experienced advisor. I don't need you to tell me what to do." Well, we built processes, policies, procedures in our shop to prevent those issues from happening. And so, if you don't have something like that in place, and you just let that advisor go wild and that tech go wild, and there's no structure, there's no guardrails, dude, you can find yourself in a dadgum mess. Like, I'm the owner. I am absolutely obsessive compulsive about some of those things. When I'm the one working on the car, I'm paying very close attention to those things. But you can't expect everyone else to do the same, right? What are your thoughts on the fact of buying a operating and working shop? Do you think that was easier than trying to go and start one from the ground up? We've always kind of leaned that direction. After David and my experience, it's been such a pain in some ways to start one from the ground up. Do you think it was easier just buying a shop?
Not necessarily. I think it depends on where you're coming from, where are you going, and what stage are you in right now. Like, if I was going to do it over, I would rather start from scratch and bring in the people that, the only way that they know how to do it in this space is the way that I just laid it out. Yeah. Instead of when you're recruiting into an existing system, you're blending experiences, you're blending habits. Yeah. You're blending, the original training scars that somebody had from the career before jumping on the team that you're in right now. And that takes time to piece that stuff together. So like I said, I think it depends. Are you trying to go to multiple locations and get to really big revenue? Then you're going to want to figure out what you're doing, try it and break everything the second time. And then maybe by that time you've got the legs to start to add locations.
One of the things that I've learned through some life lessons over the past couple of years is I had to become more involved with the family business. And in doing so, that meant a little bit of a leadership position with existing staff in this other position, right? Now, it's not an auto repair shop, but it's been a wake-up call because here I am trying to explain and implement process and show the current leaders what leadership actually looks like because they didn't have that previously. And so now I'm trying to show them and trying to guide them to leadership training, things like that. And as we go into that, I will set a process or I'll set something in place with a staff member, and 2 weeks later, they're back to doing it the way they were before. And it is very different from what I've had in my shop. Whereas, hey, here's the rule, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it. But we grew that from the ground up, right? So everybody that's here, that's the way they were doing it when they started. And trying to retrain has been something really interesting. Now, David, you've said to me in the past that a large portion of the people, because you did the parts store thing, right? And you went into stores that were broken to fix them. And so a large portion of the people that were there did not stay because you couldn't tolerate the fact they weren't following the new procedure. How frequent was that, or how common was that?
You always replace the entire staff. 100% turnover every single time.
That's interesting. Is that just because you're a jerk, or is that like give me some feedback here, man?
The employees made the store. Like, the store was a result of the employees' actions. I wasn't there to, keep things going. I was there to clean it up. And so if the place was a mess, it's because everybody had those habits. You know how hard it is to break habits. So it's either step in line or get out. And it was always 100%. I think I kept maybe 3 employees over 10 plus years. Three. That's it. I'm talking
crazy.
I probably fired 200.
That's insane.
Or they quit.
Yeah.
They either left or quit.
I think that's true across every industry. And I think David pointed out kind of the dividing line. If you are going into something broken to fix it, then you have to make the assumption that the humans behind the result are what broke it. And so, private equity mentality, no matter what industry they're in, is you have to account and plan for 100% staff replacement before you can ink a deal.
For sure. And that's the thing.
Yeah, the shop has to have strong leadership in place that's going to stay. So you can't come in as the owner and change things. If you're going to buy a business like that to operate it absentee or whatever you want, whatever perception you have of that. But if there's a strong leadership team in place, there's a shop manager, an assistant, or service advisor team, or whatever. They already have meetings. They already look up to the shop manager or the general manager, whatever, as the leader of the business. And you're just coming in with the money, and I just own it. You guys operate it. That's a different situation. Those are rare. It's normally, this guy's the manager, but the owner runs the place. And if the owner runs the place and you buy it, that's 100% staff turnover. Because they're going to go with the owner. The owner's going to leave, everybody's going to leave with him.
Ron, what did you experience when you bought the business? I mean, you were working in it, though. And so you were in leadership already, right?
Yeah, I am that rare situation that David just described. I was a service advisor, and then I was a, termed as service manager, like whatever the hell that meant at that time. I actually had left the business for a little while and was just pursuing my side hustle. And the original owner of the shop sold it to a small private equity group. And they asked me to come back and get things kind of in line. And then they had some other things going on with the other half of their portfolio after a year or two, and they had to sell off a bunch of their companies. And so we were one of them. So we were sold to a pair of private investors that brought me on as a partner.
Okay.
And so I transitioned from, an employee to being the operator, the operator and a partner inside of the same footprint.
Yeah, that's a really unique setup, And I think they recognized what you were doing was working to move you into that partner role and to take it and say, hey, let's do this thing, right? And I'm seeing more and more from private equity and venture capital that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring somebody in and buy a business that works, right? Look at what Warren Buffett's always said. I want to buy profitable companies. I want to buy a business that's doing its thing. I don't want to, I'm not trying to buy one on a value all the time.
Yeah. So, I gained a lot of knowledge through that time period, just kind of being able to look under the skirt of that kind of business mentality. And they weren't even like a major fund or anything like that. And
They were always trying to focus on businesses that brought more of a measured community benefit to whatever they're doing.
Right.
And now at this stage, we're at a point where for us to grow, we have to be able to bring in people from disparate experience sets coming from different corners of the industry. Transmission repair is like a specialty, but with 100% variables.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of us at our company, like, we don't really think about who makes the car. It's a big gray blob. Like, is that a Bosch ABS system in it? Is it
correct
a Jatco transmission?
In other words, if it's Jatco, it's broken, right? Is that what you're trying to go for here?
Yeah. Well, they're all broken if they're here.
So, Eric, let me ask you, you're hearing him talk about that. You guys are kind of, I don't want to say you're new to the shop thing, but you're fairly new to the shop thing. When you hear him talk about that, you talk about these expansions. What's the vision for the shop moving forward? Does this pique some interest in you, thinking about 2 locations, talking about growing this one to max efficiency? Like, what are your thoughts behind that?
Well, we are actually currently about to close on a new piece of land, a 1 acre piece of land that's in a much better location. I am working on my design for the new shop, and we are going to be getting an engineer this week, actually.
Fantastic.
So we are actually very well on the way of progressing into getting into something nicer, larger, and in a much better location.
Phenomenal. Now, what's your vision for the future? Are you going to remain in as leadership? Are you going to grow a team that runs the shop? Like, what does it look like from here? What's the end goal for the business?
Ultimately, the end goal. So we is a partnership. So kind of each want to have a retirement plan out of it. There's enough room in the area of towns here for 2 locations. That location that we're building now will serve this side of the bridge, and then we would like to eventually, in about 5 years or so, stretch over to the other side of the bridge, which then that location would highly compete with the dealership that's over there. We're about an hour away with traffic from the dealer, so we have this side pretty well locked up. That side's going to be the competition side, but we would like to get to multi-shop, 2 shops, where each one of us are essentially running our own business, but we want to keep the same name.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Tom, got a lot of experience, and the network has allowed you to see a lot of perspectives and a lot of feedback. You hear these guys talk about this. What's your key takeaway from that? Because you've seen a lot of these discussions over the years, and you've seen how they play out in the end. What do you think about? What comes to mind when we're having these discussions?
You mean about acquisition or hiring or
more so about destination, more so about like, hey, here's where Eric's at, here's where Ryan's at. They both have, Ryan's got a really strong business. He's bought it from, or a partnership, bought it from that venture capital kind of deal. And you've got Eric over here looking at that growth. And so he's ready to take it to the next level. What are some hurdles? What are some things that you typically see come up when you see guys in these positions?
I think David made reference to the people are the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think if you buy something relatively decent, which you can, and I don't know how he did it, whether he got rid of them all, but I can see an acquisition where you buy a place and it has 8 employees and you figure out some kind of schedule in your mind and you get rid of them one at a time.
Yeah.
So you don't want to flip the boat over. But you just kind of, you have a plan and you just slowly work the plan. And I think I've learned over the years that hiring does not get the attention that it should for most businesses, and certainly in auto repair. Our number one rule is hire nice. That's I want nice people working there. I always want me to be the least nice person. Everybody's nicer than me. Which means they get along with me, they get along with the customers, they get along with each other. So, people say, I got the best mechanic in town. He's kind of a pain in the butt, and I hide him from the customers. And I say, yeah, well, he'd be gone by the end of the week if he worked for me, because I don't want people like that.
Yeah.
And part of that hiring, it was kind of interesting. We did one of the surveys. If you go on our website, there's about 140 surveys. And one of them is, what's your biggest hiring mistake?
Okay.
And we came up with 10 choices. And the number one answer was not trusting my gut.
Yeah.
And the number 10 answer, the last answer, was not consulting my spouse. And of course,
Yep.
I had thrown that in there because I rate that as number one.
Yeah.
I have found over the years that if you want to really clean up your hiring, then the final interview involves your spouse.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have to ask some questions. She just can be wallpaper, just sitting in the room. And when the interview's over, we got to have 2 thumbs up. I don't care
Yeah.
how well I like him. If she's got thumbs down, we're not hiring.
Yeah. For sure.
There's a different feel to it. So we're it makes it, hiring is difficult enough nowadays. And if you're going to put rules in place like only hire nice, it makes it that much more difficult because a lot of people aren't very nice. I'm not very nice. They're just not. They tend to rub people the wrong way, et cetera, et cetera. But when you get nice people and they're trainable, you can really come out with a fantastic group. I am physically at the shop 3 mornings a week in the summer. End of story. So I won't be at the shop sometimes for 6-7 months at a time.
Right.
And people ask me about, well, what about your on-site manager? And I tell them I don't have one. They say, well, how is that even possible that if you're not there, you don't have an on-site manager? And I say, well, it's a couple of things. We have really great systems. We don't create systems because I think they're cool. We create systems because something happened and I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
We have great systems. We got nice people who are cooperative and kind of follow the systems. I'm thinking of what David said. David made some great points. And then, nowadays we have technology from cameras to audio, video, et cetera. So wherever I am, I can interact with everybody. And I do make sure I interact with everybody every day in some way. And so it becomes kind of self-managing. Now, maybe we'd do even better if I had an on-site manager, but we're reasonably successful. And it's kind of funny. You say I'm the oldest guy in the room. And I just, to anybody else who's, if they're watching this, they're kind of struggling, so on and so forth. We opened in 1978. The first time I made money was 2019.
Yeah. Yep.
So I went for 40 years, struggling along, crawling along, day to day, paying the bills, just hanging. Obviously we didn't go out of business, but just hanging on. And then we kind of got some ducks in a row, especially number-wise. And people-wise, and several different things altogether. I could go on for an hour here. You don't want me to do that. And all of a sudden, we started to make some money. And now we're making some money. And now it's kind of gets to be in a dilemma. You get to be an old guy like me, and you say, well, time to sell the shop, et cetera. And it's kind of look at the wife and go, where are we going to get off? I mean, we're taking in a lot of money every year. We're able to do a lot of stuff. And if we're going to destroy this income if we sell the place because we can't make that kind of money somewhere else. So then what we kind of decided to do is what do we enjoy about running the shop and what do we dislike about running the shop?
I like that.
What we dislike, we pass that off to various employees, and what we like to do, we do. I like to do marketing. I like to do numbers. And there's a couple of things that I do, and there's a bunch of stuff I don't like, and I just pass that off to the employees, or I'll pass it off to Deb, and she passes her stuff off to me, and we try to make sure that we each do different things.
Right.
So we're not on top of each other. But anyway, that's kind of rambling on for a minute or two, and hopefully
I like it. The only problem I'm going to have, Tom, is I'm going to get a ton of messages saying, well, wait, what were the things? Like, what were the things that he changed after all those years? What were the big ones? At least drop some hints. I know you said people. I know you said numbers. But drop some hints about what the big changes were.
Well, sure, one of them. The most common thing that you hear are numbers. And, you can take a frying pan, hit people over the head. You don't get it. The numbers have to hit.
Yeah.
You have to. We can play with parts GP and labor GP and tire GP. We can play with all that, but the total GP, and I'm talking round figures because I don't want to get too specific. It has to be north of 60.
Yeah.
And if it's not north of 60, you're never going to make it.
It doesn't work.
You need to you need to go in there. I had a little group that I facilitated for about 20 years, and we had a meeting. We had one guy that he just wasn't hitting his numbers. He wasn't hitting. Now we discuss it every meeting and so on and so forth. And finally, and we all had laptops, so we could tap into our system. And there was one guy who always hit his numbers. And I said, Fred, these aren't their real names. I said, Fred, hey, give your laptop to Harry. Fred was the guy not hitting the numbers. I said, Harry, you know the software. Go in there and fix his labor rate. And he did. He went in there and he changed the settings of labor rate. And I said, now don't you be changing it back. And we checked the next meeting. He didn't. He left it alone. And you gotta hit the numbers.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta be moral. You gotta be ethical. You gotta be follow the law and all those things. Those are prerequisites. But right at the top, you gotta hit the numbers. And then I was referring to the nice people. I tell people something like this: if you rate your employees 1 to 10. Employees rated 10. There aren't any, so quit looking. That's number 1. 7 to 9, great employees, keep training and make them better. 4 to 6, make a plan to replace them one at a time, kind of like David might have been referring to. We're going to pick them off, we're going to replace them. 1 to 3, 5 o'clock today, they're gone. If you have to work twice as much and do all the work yourself, you are going to be happier, have less stress, and just have a better life.
Might as well do it yourself anyway, right?
You get rid of those pain in the neck employees.
Yep.
Get rid of them. So there's a couple of things, that come to mind. Can I go on?
I love it. I love it. So Eric,
you might I'll throw another one in too.
Yeah.
If you want to be maneuverable with your business, debt is a ball and chain around your ankle.
yes.
And the bigger that ball and chain, the less you can maneuver. When when you don't have debt, and when you have $100,000 in the checking account, and a $5,000 job goes upside down, and somebody says you need to write a $5,000 check, you write a $5,000 check, and we move on and try to make up the $5,000.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're struggling all the time and you're hanging on by your fingernails, it's kind of like, how can I wiggle my way out of this? And it's just it ruins everything. So anyway, I'll stop.
I'm with you 100%. And I love it. I think that's some of the greatest advice that's ever been shared on the show. Eric, I'm going to come back to you then. You started the shop. You were a technician, right? Started the shop. How did you set these numbers? You're hearing Tom talk about it. What was it that you went with to set the numbers?
Well, ultimately, when we first started, we weren't really using a matrix too much. We were just charging, I think, 15% on parts, and then doing our typical markup. And then we quickly learned, we got involved with numbers, started learning more about it, got Shop-Ware involved, started dealing with the matrices, and got more on board with actually how to properly charge, and never looked back and been extremely happy with how we do it. And that's been the one thing is, especially in the Mercedes world, sticker shock for service advisors is a real thing for them.
Yeah.
When you're constantly putting forth $4,000 or $5,000 estimates, and higher all day long, it got hard to keep them in line with 54% markup on parts, trying to hit a 61, 63% on labor, deviate where you need to, but don't let it scare you. It is what it is. They know the car. They know the brand. They are absolutely happy with paying our price. They understand what they're getting for that price, and they see it, and they know it. So kind of getting people in line of sticking with that, not changing the numbers was difficult. But once they understood it and they start seeing it reflected in their pay as well, because we profit share with our 5 employees that we have. Everybody has a stake, really, which works out well for us. Nobody hates being there. Nobody tries to leave early. Everybody wants to keep going. Everybody wants to do their department better than most we can do. We live right now debt free. And
that's
it's been a
phenomenal.
beautiful thing. Going into this business, we will no longer be anywhere remotely close to debt free. So we are all a little nervous about it, but it's a need that has to happen, and we're all comfortable with it. So we're going to take it, but it'd be interesting.
That's phenomenal. So do you think that coming out of that dealer world, because we all know that the Mercedes dealers are creme de la creme price wise, right? Like they're way up at the top of the food chain. Do you feel like seeing their prices, knowing what they were charging, made it easier for you to charge what you needed to in your business?
Ultimately, I mean, I've never really, my labor rate is solely based off of what it takes for me to hit my numbers and make my profit.
Amen.
I don't base it emotionally. I don't base it off the street, the guy down the road. It is solely based on what I need to be able to keep making a profit, keep my doors open, and feed my guys. So for me, it's never been too hard. I mean, we do keep it into consideration, but we're significantly lower than a dealer. So they're well all over $200, $240 in the Mercedes world now.
Yeah.
Especially here in my area. We don't come close
How
to
much
that at
of
this
a
point.
consideration do you put that the price of that repair has a specific value regardless of what your costs are?
Sorry, say that again?
Have you ever thought that a specific repair has a value to it? And that value is X amount of dollars. It's like you could make a copycat Mercedes Benz. The Benz is selling for $100,000. You make a copycat Mercedes Benz, like some of these manufacturers, they're coming out with their luxury brand to compete with a Benz. They are able to produce the vehicle at a much lower cost because they're not building them in Germany. They don't have unions to deal with, and they're shipping everything from China, whatever they're doing to bring in the cost and say, oh, well, we can sell this for $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 less than the Benz. But the problem is, if I sell a Benz competitor for half the price of Benz, it's going to be looked at half the value. So I'm going to come in. I can come in cheaper. I can sell a car for $99,000, but it's going to be $99,000, not $50,000. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because the vehicle has to have a certain value, regardless of the cost to produce the vehicle. It needs to carry a certain value. So if the chain job is $12,000 at the dealer, you are looking at your cost saying that I can do this for $8,000, but the value of the repair is $12,000. Why not sell for $12,000?
We usually are really close to dealer pricing on a larger job of that nature, just because our pricing actually, I mean, we're not way off from the dealer pricing by any stretch of the imagination. We are not the cheapest shop in town. We do value our time, and we do value the fact that these cars are out of warranty. There's a lot of, these things are way older. There's a lot more going on with them. A lot of times you have compounding problems. So our diag is very well based on the number of problems that you have. We don't do a 1 hour diag for everything. Typically we max out around 3 hours, and keep it conservative. When we have a no start that's been sitting for 2 years. But the value in the cars, for the repairs, it's kind of interesting in the Mercedes world because Mercedes does have a $30,000 car line now. And those customers expect that $150,000 car line. And what they have produced is never going to reach that. So how it becomes a problem with us because those customers have that $35,000 car. Then they come in and see the $5,000 or $6,000 ticket. And they're like, well, what the heck is this? And it's like, well, I'm sorry, it still costs.
Those people are delusional, dude. Those people are delusional. Ain't nobody buying a Benz thinking that I'm going to get a Honda Accord. Ain't nobody buying a Benz thinking they're getting a Honda Accord.
So
they should be expecting to pay Benz prices for repairs. That's absurd.
Yeah,
I would lose my mind on that customer. I'd be like, "What'd you think you were buying?"
David loses his mind. No,
I don't think I'll ever reach Tom Ham's age. Like I have lost my patience with stupidity. Like
he's only 54, David.
I know, right? I can't put up with that. I just can't put up with it. Like, what do you expect?
It to my service advisor for he does a good job of dealing with it and not angering the customers, but.
Oh, I want them
pushing
angry.
them out the door.
You know what? Reference. It's not even. I don't want them angry. I'm not trying to make them angry. I want them to feel shame I think shame is completely lost. It has been lost in society overall. Like, there's no shame in society anymore. Everybody is just completely lost shame. So I have just taken it upon myself that I'm going to make you feel bad about whatever stupid thing just came out of your mouth. Because what you just said was stupid. It's a Benz. I don't care that you paid $30,000 for it. I only paid $10,000 for this 10-year-old Benz. Like, okay, and it was $150,000 when it was new. What'd you think it was going to cost to repair?
Zero.
Each airbag is $6,000 to replace, and you have 4 blown ones. So I'm sorry. Like, plus the pump, plus the pump, and who the hell knows what the lines, and then whatever module's out. I'm sorry, like that's what it's going to cost.
I mean, you're not wrong. And poor Ryan over here, I just saw him down his 4th Red Bull. So I don't know how big St. George
Ryan,
transmission is.
Ryan, try these.
I'm just spooling up, man.
Gorilla Mind. They're pretty good.
Gorilla Mind. How much caffeine's on?
200. Not a lot. A little bit more than a cup of coffee, but it combines a whole bunch of extra junk in there. Some nootropics in there to enhance the caffeine.
What the body craves.
Yeah, I know, right? So, Ryan, it sounds like you've taken a very different role in the shop, and so that front line number doesn't seem to affect those in your position as much. Are you setting your price in the same way? Because I'm telling you, and the reason I keep talking about this, Tom, I'm sure you see it all the time. We see a lot of these shop owners come in, start a shop, and they try to price off, that Oreo pricing model. The lowest shop's over here and the highest shop's over here. I'm going to be in the middle. But they never look at their financials and say, hey, it has to fit this model. I'm curious, when you entered this partnership with these folks, they came to you and said, here's the number, right? Like, and you said, okay, I just got to break that number down, as David says, to the ridiculous. I just have to make that number. That's all there is to it. Do the numbers impact you in that way? Because I see so many of these young guys come in and start a shop, and the numbers seem like a huge deal to them. They are so afraid of charging what they have to charge. Does it impact you in the same way?
I mean, I feel like I got desensitized to high numbers, early on in my career. When I first started, we were still working on like 3 speeds, and you were able to do a lot of repairs on transmissions.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we don't have to sell you a whole complete unit. If you don't want a warranty, we can fix the doodad that's bad and get you back on the road and, truck on.
Yeah.
There's a lot less opportunity for doing that as time time has moved on. So, it's not terribly uncommon these days to have a $8,000-$10,000, transmission repair on a vehicle that's got, 90,000 miles on it or 120,000 miles on it. We all know that there's a plethora of other shit that got put off that is also needed on that vehicle right now.
Yeah.
So, I was lucky to spend some time with, some private equity guys to learn how to read a frickin' financial document.
Yes.
And understand a P&L. And understand that cost plus pricing isn't going to get you 100% of the way. The same as just staring at GP percent is not going to get you the rest of the way. Right. When I get in arguments about cost plus pricing with people in this industry, and I'm like, what's your overhead? Well, I'm not 100% sure. It's probably somewhere around here. I'm like, you don't know your cost in your cost plus math, which means your math is freaking wrong.
It's broken.
How much does your build hours every month fluctuate? Like your average build hours per tech every month, how much does that actually fluctuate?
Yep. Well, I mean, and
that's your operational limit of your space. Like that's your bay efficiency, that's your capacity efficiency.
Yes.
So you've got to tie your gross profit to what your cap is and design your numbers backwards from that.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's missing. And they don't. You know how many of these guys that I talk to that don't know their financials at all? That they don't know how to read a P&L. They don't know how to read a balance sheet. They don't know how to read a cash flow statement. I'm sitting here saying, like, whoa, okay, I get that you're saying you're a business owner, and I'm going to offend some people when I say this, but you're playing business owner at that point. You're not being a business owner at that point, because the business owner has to have those numbers. Some of the stuff that I've been through over the last year was like, well, well, somebody else handled that. I don't handle that. I'm the business owner, but I don't handle that. I'm the business CEO, but I don't handle that. No, you don't that doesn't work. You can't run the business without the data. It takes the data to know how to run the business. And they say, well, I'll get there one day. No, like Tom, I don't want to be like Tom. Right? Like, sorry, Tom, but I don't want to be doing this for 40 years before I'm like, hey, I actually can pay my bills now. That's weird. Tom, how many?
You know how smart that was? I didn't make a goddamn dime for 40 years, IRS. I didn't either. I've been in business for 12 plus years. I haven't made a goddamn dime.
I had probably spent 8 or 9 years, going to whatever automotive type training I could get my hands on locally in town. So it was all technician training, no owner training or advisor training or something like that. And I go to a few like coaching company luncheons and meetings and things like that. And my total impression until I finally like stepped out and kind of burst my, I sought to burst my bubble, but my impression was like shop owners are all angry as shit and broke as shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I doing? Why do I even want to be in this business? And then I went to Ratchet and Wrench in Minneapolis. It was 20.
The Riots,
like
the furries. Okay. You remember the furries?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this. Okay. So I've talked about this before. Remember the Techmetric party at the top of the bar?
Yeah.
Like that rooftop bar? Okay, well, a bunch of us stood around and we were like walking the streets, talking and everything else. Well, the buses quit running. And so part of them got an Uber and I walked back. And so I
ended up in a tuk-tuk that I barely remember back to the hotel.
Well, so like, dude, I walked all the way through those riots and like all the way through all those people, and I'm talking to them as I walk down there. I get almost to the hotel and this homeless lady licks the side of my face. Dude, I'm on the phone with my wife. She walks up and licks my face and I can smell it. Like it burns my eyes. And I'm like, this is weird. And so I go over and I go in the hotel and they won't open the door. And I'm like, what's up? And the security guard walks over and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'll just walk back from up there. He's like, there's riots, right? And I'm like, oh. Sorry.
What city was this?
Minneapolis, right after George Floyd.
Okay, let me throw in.
I have a bad habit of wandering around new cities. And
if you want to see your numbers go up, of course, this doesn't work if you're a one-man shop. But if you have 3, 4, 5 employees, you don't have to be a huge shop. But if you have a little bit of shop, if you want to see your numbers go up, work remotely. Get out of there. Get out of the way.
Yep.
Quit getting distracted and work on all the things that you should be working on. And which is really weird. It's kind of like, I wasn't there all month, but the numbers are better. How's that work? Well, that's how it worked because you weren't there. So get out of the way. I mentioned that on the pricing thing. Couple things. I think that the main determiner of what the price of a job is today is cost of employees.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can see that.
The parts. But it's what employees cost. And you got to have good employees, so you got to pay them, and then you got to do the math and say, what's my labor rate? It's a simple calculation.
Yeah.
If I have to pay X number of dollars per hour, then I have to charge so much per hour. And I tell people, some people are very comfortable going up $20 in one shot or more. Other people, they're not. And I say, well, put it $2 a month for 10 months. And 10 months from now, we'll be there. So just, do it that way. As far as selling the higher price, I think the number one thing there is the facility. And I know people are very important overall, but the number one thing in selling something more expensive is the facility. What are they looking at when they're driving by?
Yeah.
And a lot of places, a lot of shops will go in and they'll spend a lot of money on their customer area and all this beautiful stuff inside, and that's great. But you first got to get them in.
Yeah.
When you get them in, it has to do with driving down the road and looking at that. And does that look like a $250 an hour place, or does it look like a $75 an hour place?
Yeah.
And that makes it so much easier to sell that job, whatever the price is, to get that value, is it $8,000 or $12,000, like Dave said. When you're in a nice, clean facility that kind of looks like a dealership, if you will, the better dealerships, there you go. That's one of the things you can do is if you're, like Eric, if I was doing what Eric was, I would go to the couple of Mercedes dealers and say, how do I make my place look like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to go above them, actually.
Yeah.
At that level. But so many of these places you go in them. I was in one not too long ago, and they had really spent the money. And the inside, the customer area, the service scale is really nice. But when you drove by it,
you wouldn't even know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people aren't going to stop there in the first place.
Kurt Wheeler is a great example of that. Kurt's in Raleigh, Eric, and as a matter of fact, I think one of the last times I saw him was either in Charleston or maybe it was in Jacksonville. I think I saw him in Jacksonville at an event. But he's out of Raleigh, and he does the whole Euro shop thing. And he has one of the most beautiful facilities you've ever seen. And so when I was talking to him about that, I was like, dude, this sucker's an expensive shop. And he said, right, but I work on expensive cars. And so my client base expects this from me. And he said, so I'm going to make that investment now so that when they come to me, they understand what they're paying for. And so I thought that was a really interesting take for sure. Well, guys, I know we're running out of time. So in closing, I'm going to go down the list and give each of you a chance to say something. If you got something you want to say, Ryan, I'll start with you. What do you think? Closing thoughts?
I think this a lot, and it's kind of like one of the frameworks of how I think about the industry is you break it down. The only two things that hit the P&L are we sell parts and we sell labor. Yeah. Time and knowledge and experience is all balled up into those two charges one way or another.
Right.
The way we actually grow as an industry and the way that we compete is by creating the space for professionals to be professionals.
Right. Yeah.
That's
100%.
good teams. That's good service. Like we really only compete on value, service, and location. And that is what the experience is. You ball those three up. That is largely your customer experience.
You're so right.
Whatever framework, whatever fancy framework we're all trying to reinvent the wheel under is like, okay, it's just got to stack up to that math equation.
Yeah. I'll add on to that. Michael Smith from the Institute, he's coming out here to do leadership intensive at my shop. It's probably one of the most powerful classes I've ever sat in. It is intense. I mean, it's not just about shop ownership. It's not just about automotive. It's the psychology class, but it is intense. And one of the things we're talking about doing with him is a financials class that looks at your business like you are valuing a stock, like you are valuing an investment. Is it worth it? Is it not? Right. And I think that's something that so many of us miss. But, you said something that really stands out that he talks about. And at the beginning of that class, he sits everybody down and he says, I want you to understand that private equity and venture capital now look at your business very differently than they ever have before. And they look at you as what is the human capital? And he said, by that, I mean, is this business human-centric? Because it takes human beings to make this work. And he said they've never done that before. They've always just looked at the numbers, but now they're looking at the people. And I think that's such a dramatic shift in that mindset from where we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I see that happening more and more today. So kudos to you. Eric, any closing thoughts?
Overall, our main goal is to, like the name of your show, change the industry. We want to, and that's what we're hoping to do with our new, everybody, like you said, Tom said, everybody puts the money into the showroom. We want to put the money in the shop. We're going to have where you can see what's going on in the shop, bright, well lit, clean, just awesome look, big glass wall, kind of everything to go with it. And start changing the perspective of what people think about when they see an automotive technician and the building that it's in. We want them to be comfortable even a $200,000 car. Without changing the industry, we won't do it. So people have got to start doing it, and it will show.
Amen, buddy. One step at a time. It takes each of us taking a step and going for it.
Yep.
Tom, I'm just going to leave you with, hey, I'm going to call you when we get done here. It seems like you don't have enough on your plate. I'm going to go ahead and get you to run my shop so it'll start making money. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there. Just going to give you something else to do. I don't want you to get bored, Tom.
I'll leave you with one thought, and this is one of the tips I wrote on the website not too long ago. Fixing your shop, we're talking management here, fixing your shop is not like fixing a car.
Yeah.
And too often people get that confused. When a car comes in, it comes in with a leak. When it leaves, it's 100% not leaking. When it comes into the check engine light, it's 100% off, and it stays off. A shop's not like that. Most of the problems, most of the issues, most of the things you work on with a shop, and it's one of those secrets you don't want the employees to hear, but if you can make it 50% better, you're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the check engine light. If it only comes on intermittently, now we're ahead. But you can't you can't do that fixing cars, but you can do that in management. Because we had, last month we had 6 fires. Well, this month we only had 3. Well, that's good. We won.
100%. Absolutely. You're so right, Tom. And, it's incremental small steps, a little bit better tomorrow than we were today, a little bit better today than we were yesterday.
Perfection, where you see a problem in management, we say, we got to go in there and kill that and get that completely, get it gone. Well, chip away at it. Maybe we will get it gone eventually, but let's see if we can improve it.
Yep. Do you know how many people I've seen come back from a training event? Shop owners come back and say, I'm going to implement this huge big thing. I'm going to do all these things. What do? They break the shop and they take all of this to stock and they make all these giant changes all at once. And they say, this is miserable. Why is this not working? You made too many changes. You went too hard. You went too fast. This is a slow incremental process at making your business better. Fellas, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.